let me start with the introduction. So, if you look around you, you will find most of the applications in today's world are related with the power electronics. So, from the start of your mobile phone, laptops, to many industry applications, like I have listed here, for example, electric vehicle, healthcare equipments, aerospace equipments, renewable energy sources, consumer electronics, which again includes mobile phone and laptop. This all uses power electronic equipment. So the list of this equipment is actually endless, and new applications are also coming. Nowadays, you can also see speed controlled fans. So initially, one used to say that fans are still using AC, but nowadays it is also coming with speed controllable capability. Because of popularity of this power electronics area, the demand of such loads is also gaining importance. So from few watts to gigawatts applications, all are surrounded with the power electronics now. So here in the right side figure at the right hand side, you can see in this figure from the few watts application like your mobile phone charger, your calcs, your LED bulbs, to the gigawatt application like HVDC, which uses lots of power, which transfers lots of power. So all these applications require power electronics. Now, in one way or other, one important thing is all these applications need DC supply. Okay, there will be a stage where you will be using DC supply for its operation. Now, why is this? Because all this is electronics. Usually, we call these as a power electronics because for a higher power application. But then all these electronics need DC supply for its operation, and that's why the importance of DC supply is major in this application. But then a common question comes into our mind is why we need AC-DC converter? Why don't we use direct DC supply? So the answer to this question lies way back to 1880s. What happened is there was a major war. We usually call it as a grid war between two scientists named as Tesla and Edison. So Tesla was in favor of AC system, while Edison was in favor of DC system. So both had their own reasons. Like Tesla was having AC electrical generator, while Edison was in favor of his electrical bulb, which could use DC supply directly. So both were right and at their own locations. However, the transformer was the equipment which actually made this difference. What happened was transformer is the only equipment which is possible only for AC systems. And since we need transfer of voltage from one level to other, and which is very easy for AC system using this transformer, that's why everyone adopted this AC power system. So nowadays you can see from generation, transmission to distribution, all this conversion happens with the AC only. And that's why we have AC supply surrounding us and not the DC supply. And because of this, AC-DC conversion is must for most of the loads nowadays. So though the load requirement is changed from AC to DC gradually, but still the major part of the system is still AC, right? It is not possible for now to convert this whole system to DC power system. And that's why the importance of AC-DC conversion is major in this area. So wherever you will find power electronic equipment, you will find AC-DC conversion stage at the input side. Now, let us go into some concept of this AC-DC conversion. So, consider a simple example. Now, what I have said is, in the three-pin supply at your home, you get AC system, right? The laptop you are using, which needs DC power supply. So, here you need to convert the AC power supply to the DC power supply using some circuit. And that circuit is nothing but a AC-DC conversion, which is also known as rectifier. So, rectifier enables this AC-DC conversion. So at the input, we are having this sinusoidal waveform, while at the output, ideally, we need a constant voltage waveform. So by definition, DC may not be the constant value, but DC is something which is unidirectional and is having non-zero average voltage value. So, but ideally, the voltage waveform required by the laptop will be a constant DC voltage. But is this possible really? Actually, this is only possible with the help of the conventional batteries. Batteries can give you constant DC output voltage waveform. But with the power electronic circuit, to get such a constant output voltage is slightly difficult. But what is possible then? Uh, see, we cannot use batteries at every location because the cost of the batteries is still high at the present situation. And that's why we need some conversion circuit which can convert the AC power supply available to us to the DC supply. and this conversion should be as ideal as possible. Okay. So the simplest way to do this is, let's say we have a single phase power supply waveform, which is a sinusoidal waveform. What we can do is just remove the negative half cycle, and the what we will get is nothing but a only positive half cycle with a positive average output voltage value. Yes, it won't be constant, but the average value over the half cycle, over the full cycle, will be positive. So it can be called a DC waveform. This particular solution is very much popular. Okay, actually, in the early area, all the AC/DC conversion used to happen in this way only. So that's why this became that much popular. But yes, there are few issues with this. As we can directly see, it is not an ideal solution, or it is not a exact solution what we wanted. But still, this can do our work. How this conversion can be possible? Let's look into that. So the objective what we have is we need to remove the negative half cycle of AC waveform. The simple circuit which we can use is nothing but a diode. Diode, this you might have studied in the electronics also. The diodes can be used as a clipping circuit. Using the diode now, you can clip the negative half cycle of the, and you can get only positive output voltage. So because diode has a ideally the diode has a characteristic as shown in this particular figure. In the reverse bias, it has infinite resistance, while in the forward bias, it has ideally zero resistance. So what will happen is in the positive half cycle, the diode will be forward biased. You will get output similar to the input waveform. While in the negative half cycle, the diode will be reverse biased, and that's why you will get zero output voltage. I hope this will be clear. So the circuit for this will be like this. As you can see, we have applied a sinusoidal voltage waveform here at the input. We have connected a PN junction diode, and then at the output we are getting only positive half cycle. This particular circuit is known as half wave rectifier circuit. I think most of you might be familiar with this circuit because this is a very basic circuit we study in the power electronics. Now, why the name half wave rectifier? Because we are getting only half wave at the output. So in the complete full cycle, only positive half cycle is available at the output. Now to get the negative half cycle, similarly you can connect diode in a reverse direction. That is also possible. The half-wave rectifier circuit can be classified as single and three-phase rectifier circuits. So for the single phase, we had used single diode, while for the three-phase, we will be using three diodes. So we need to connect single diode per phase. In this way, the half-wave rectifier circuit is possible for three-phase circuit also. So the advantage with this circuit is very simple. Yeah, we can see that only we need to connect single diode, and because of that, it is low cost circuit. The cost involved for the circuit is very low, and that's the reason you will find this circuit very commonly in the cell chargers and very cheap circuits which you can buy and buy to charge the cells. Okay, in the cheap cell phone chargers also you may find such circuits. So nowadays actually they use isolated converters like modern state of the art circuits, but in the initial period they used to use this kind of circuit. But there are various issues associated with this particular circuit. One major issue is related with the input power quality. Then due to this reason, it is not suitable for high power applications. Also, there is issue related with its output value. Using the half-wave rectifier circuit, we cannot get, we are not utilizing the circuit fully because, as I have already said, we are using this circuit to get only positive half cycle at the output, right? So in the negative half cycle, the output is completely zero, and that's why the circuit is not utilized, and that's why the output voltage is limited in this case. But then the another question is why it is not exactly suitable for high power applications, because of these several reasons like related with the input power quality and output voltage limitation. Now let's look into this issue in detail. So you have a half wave rectifier circuit here which we have connected at the middle. The diagram is shown in the middle. So we have supplied it with the input voltage of a single phase waveform, as you can see at the left hand side, and now at the output you are getting only rectified pulse, half wave rectified pulse. So how will be the output load current? It will be nothing but, as we have connected only resistor here, so it will be output voltage divided by resistance. So the waveform for the output current will be similar to the output voltage, which will be the half wave rectified pulse. For this circuit, if you look carefully, the input current is exactly equals to output current, because when the diode is forward biased, the input current is exactly equals to output current. When the diode is reverse biased, output current is zero and input current is also zero. And that's why the waveform shape for the input current will be exactly equal to the output voltage waveform for this resistive load. So the input voltage waveform shape is like this. It is a half wave rectified pulse. Now you can see here, though the input voltage is sinusoidal, the input current is not a sinusoidal. It is a discontinuous waveform. And due to this discontinuity, what is happening is we are getting an average value of input source current. Now what will happen with this? Because of this average DC value of input source current, the transformer which might be located at the primary side of this supply may get saturated because the transformers are not supposed to work with the DC power supply. They can only supply AC current. And if we draw DC current out of it, it may get saturated. And that's why these circuits, and that's the main reason these circuits are not possible to use for high power application. Because for low power application, the transformer may not get saturated with the low values of currents. But for high power application, the amount of current drawn, DC current drawn, will be very high. So it creates power quality issues at input and also have underutilization at the output. Because we can see here in a negative half cycle, we are getting zero output voltage, and that's why output is not utilized that much. The supply is not utilized. So to control these power quality issues, there are few standards which are available. Because if you go to the market to buy this circuit, the two circuit may cost differently, because they may not, some circuit may not follow the standards. So that's why to regulate these circuits, to regulate the quality of these circuits, there are few standards available in with the IEEE. Now, one major importance of this standard is because these circuits will be connected to the grid we are using, that AC grid. Now, what will happen if someone draws more power using this such a circuit which is having poor quality? The input power quality will not be good, and that's why the surrounding load will also get affected. So, for example, if you connect such a circuit for high power application, the surrounding load like TV, fan, tube lights may get flickering effect due to the harmonics, and also the transformer may get saturated. That is an additional issue. So the losses in the transformer are going to increase. It may get heated, and there will be other issues. Okay. So to give you glimpse about these standards, existing standards in this area, I have listed here few standards. So first standard is IEEE 614. It is related with the procedures for measurement of power frequency, electric and magnetic fields from AC power lines. So the name is slightly complicated, but this standard is typically related with the measurements of the power supply. Okay, so frequency and voltage and various fields like electromagnetic radiation and all these are covered in this particular standard. While IEEE 518 gives you guides for the installation of electrical equipment to minimize electrical noise inputs to controllers from external sources. Now, what happens is when you use such circuits, you always use the circuit with the controllers. The job of controller is to control the output power and input power quality of this particular circuit. But what happens if the quality of such circuit is not good? In such case, the generated noise will affect the controller ability, and in such cases, the circuit may fail. And that's why this particular standards governs the guidelines for such an installation. One very important standard related with the DC-DC converters is IEEE 519. This is particularly related with the power quality issues which arise when we connect a power electronic circuit to the grid. So it gives you recommended practices and requirements for harmonic control in electrical power system. Actually, these standards also gives you the typical values or limitations for the power quality parameters. We will be discussing such parameters. But for example, THD, harmonic distortion, this standard gives you values for limits of such a circuit. There are also some other circuits like IEEE 1100, 1159, 141, 142, etc. These are particularly related with grounding issues, monitoring issues, various locations of this particular circuit. Like you may connect the circuit for industry application or residential application or commercial building. So the limits for these particular locations will be different, and those are specified in these particular standards. There are also several standards which are again related with this particular field, but I'm not giving here all the standards. These are majorly important. Since, as we have seen half-wave rectifier circuit, which had several issues, So it could, yeah, basically it is not possible for many applications to satisfy the limits given in the standards using the half wave rectifier circuit. And that's why the another circuit is was required, and which was given in the name of for full wave rectifier circuit. Okay, so from the name only you can say in the full wave rectifier circuit we will be using full wave. Okay, so in a half wave rectifier circuit, only half wave was obtained at the output, while for the full wave rectifier circuit, we will be using full wave, we will be utilizing full input waveform. Okay, so here I will try to give you the glimpse of operation of this full wave rectifier circuit. This is the particular circuit which uses four diodes D1, D2, D3, and D4. Okay. Now, what will happen in the positive half cycle is in the positive half cycle, the diode, because the voltage at here at this positive terminal of AC supply will be positive in the positive half cycle, and that's why the diode D1 and D4 will be forward biased. Because of this forward biasing of this diode, the current path can be given with the red curve as shown in this particular figure. Okay. Now look carefully here that the input current is exactly equals to the output current. I'm not saying only magnitude, but the direction of these both currents is exactly equal. And that's why you can see the diagram. So input current waveform is exactly equals to the output current waveform here. Now you know how to get the output voltage. It will be exactly equals to the output voltage because exactly equals to input voltage in the positive half cycle because both are coming in series, and the output current will be equals to output voltage divided by the load resistance. Now, in this case, as diode D1 and D4 are conducting, as you can see, as I already told you, that I in and I load are in the same direction, and that's why there is a same waveform for this both the currents. Now let's look what happens in the negative half cycle. In the negative half cycle, in the negative half cycle, what is happening? What will happen is at the input you have negative cycle or negative amplitude, while at the output, because of the reverse polarity of the input power supply, the diode D2 and D3 will get forward bias, while diode D1 and D4 will get reverse bias. Because of this reason, what will happen is this positive terminal, because now the supply polarity is reverse, and that's why this positive terminal will get connected to the positive terminal of the output, and that's why again you will get positive waveform at the output. So this input voltage waveform for the negative half cycle will get flipped by 180 degree, or it will be opposite polarity. So the output voltage will again be positive, and as you can see, resultantly you will get two pulses per cycle. So that's why the average value will again be increased. Now you are utilizing the input power supply in both the half cycles. Similarly, the load current can be calculated from the output voltage, which will be V out divided by resistance in the similar fashion. And but here there is a difference between the load current and input current. As you can see now, if you trace the circuit carefully, the input current is now in opposite direction to the load current because diode D2 and D3 are forward biased. If you can see the direction of input current, it is opposite to the output load current, I load. And that's why the waveform for the input current will be opposite to that of the output load current in the negative half cycle. So as you can see, it will be reverse to the or negative half cycle to the input current. And that's why, as you can see, resultantly, the input current waveform is sinusoidal. Okay, unlike in the half wave rectifier circuit where there was DC component present, here if you calculate the average value for this waveform over a cycle, it will be zero, right? So now using this full wave rectifier circuit, what you have achieved is you have increased the average output voltage because you are getting both the output in the both the half cycles. Also, the input current is sinusoidal, so the issues associated with the saturation of the input transformer, which were there in the half wave rectifier circuit, are now solved. So some of the issues of half wave rectifier circuit can be solved using the full wave rectifier circuit. I'm not saying all the issues can be solved because we are not again here discussing various issues related with the controllability, controllability of the output, and also various issues associated with the commutation and all. So all issues are not solved, but major issues related with the output voltage and input current are basically solved compared to the half wave rectifier circuit. So now if, to consider now, because we have seen full wave rectifier, also seen half wave rectifier. So full wave rectifier is quite better compared to half wave rectifier, but still there are some issues which are not solved using the full wave rectifier circuit. So to discuss this, Let's look into the evolution of rectifiers or the objectives of the rectifiers which are required for various applications. So the objectives of this AC-DC conversion can be classified into three categories. The primary objective is to get a constant output voltage, while the secondary objective is to minimize interference to the input power supply and surrounding load. I think I have discussed both of these objectives. The additional features which can be possible using the rectifier circuit is to control the input power quality. Okay, so yeah, we can get better input power quality in this as a secondary objective. But if we change the load, the input power quality may again get affected. The using the additional circuitry or a control objective, we can achieve input power quality control also, and also we can have control over the output power. So typically for low power applications, only primary objective is kept into mind. So when you design a particular circuit, let's say you are designing for low power application, there are some conditions related with the cost. So you will always look into primary objectives. So you may go for the half wave rectifier circuit with some kinds of filters and all. You can make this circuit to work for that particular application. But sometimes for low power application also you may need precise output. Okay. So in such cases, the secondary and additional features may be included. So you need to go for other converter circuit. But always for high power application, you cannot use half wave rectifier. As I have told you already, there will be issues related with the transformer saturation and also power quality. And typically for high power application, it will affect grid also. So grid utility may not allow you to use half wave rectifier for high power application. So these high power applications need in-depth design related with the quality issues. So you may use full wave rectifier circuit or power factor control circuit, which are state of the art circuit, where you can control the rectifier using PWM pulses. So we will try to look into these circuits. So the classify. So based on these objectives, the various circuits came into market and also into the research. These all circuits can be classified into various groups. So the crude way of classifying the circuit is as follows. So you may classify it as a single and three-phase circuits. You may also classify it as low power circuits, high power circuits, but this is a crude classification. Another way to classify this circuit is based on what type of device or what type of control you are using. You may classify them as line commutated and power factor control circuits. Basically, in line commutated circuit, what you do is you control the circuit in a fundamental frequency. Okay, so for example, basically you use thyristors for such circuits, or sometimes you may use IGBT, but you control with a fundamental frequency. In the power factor control circuit, you need to use PWM control. So the gate control for such a circuit will be PWM signal. You might be familiar with the PWM signals. I'm not going to detail here for the power factor control circuit, but the operation could be explained in a similar way. Now, another way to classify it is uncontrolled circuits, semi-controlled circuits, and also a controlled circuits, fully controlled circuits. So these uncontrolled circuit typically uses the diodes, because you know that diode cannot be controlled, right? So these uncontrolled circuit uses typically diodes, while semi-controlled circuits uses combination of diodes and thyristors, and sometimes thyristors also. While fully controlled circuits either uses thyristors or IGBTs and MOSFETs, so fully controlled switches. In this way, these circuits can be classified. The main purpose to classify this circuit is because someone may come to you and ask for a solution for his application. Now, depending on the application, a cost, and also what is the requirement on the quality, you may decide which type of circuit you need to use. So each circuit has its features, but then there comes few challenges related with the control and also a cost. Another way to classify such circuit is based on the application requirement. So you might be knowing that nowadays e-vehicles are becoming very much popular. Lots of research is going into electric vehicle charging stations. All these circuits need AC/DC conversion stage. Okay, so whatever electric vehicle charging station will be coming, it will be using very high power AC/DC conversion stage. So for such case, the regeneration capability is also important. Okay, so circuits can be also classified as half wave and full wave circuit, as we have already discussed in the initial slides, and also with and without regeneration capability. Now, what is this? With regeneration capability is usually used to increase the efficiency, because in a typical, let's you can consider a e-vehicle. For example, if there is a downward slope, then you may regenerate the supply, right? So the efficiency of the electric vehicle can be increased in such cases. So the AC-DC conversion stage in such applications need to be capable to have a regeneration. Now you can see this classification in the right hand side figure also. The rectifiers are directly classified as line commutated and power factor control circuits. The line commutated circuits are typically using these diodes and thyristors. In very few applications, they use this IGBT and MOSFET, but then these IGBT and MOSFET are underutilized. So typically they use diode and thyristors. Those converters which uses diodes only, those are uncontrolled circuits, which can be classified as half wave and full wave circuits, while those uses thyristor and combination of diodes are called as semi-controlled circuits, and fully controlled circuits typically uses only thyristors, or they may use IGBT and MOSFETs. Now these are again can be classified as similarly half wave and full wave circuits, but I'm not showing here, so it is just a repetition. Now, other type of circuits which are power factor control circuits, these are state of the art circuit. These are little complicated because here you need to track the input and output of the circuit. You need to maintain input power factor to unity value, because most of these rectifier circuit may not maintain the power factor to unity because of their control. But still, these power factor control circuits uses closed loop control to maintain the input power factor to unity value. Now they can be classified as circuits with regeneration and without regeneration capability. The without regeneration circuits are boost and Vienna circuits. These are basically a simple, not that much complicated, but those are related with the DC-DC converters. While with regeneration capability circuits are voltage and current source circuits. With all these types of circuits, now the basic question comes into our mind is which circuit will be better for which application? Now, as one may come to you for a solution, as I have said, so you need to first fix the circuit. You need to check its performance for the particular application. Now, how to check the performance? It can be checked in a both the ways. One way to is to go towards mathematical analysis, where you can use various parameters to analyze the performance behavior of the circuit. You may calculate its efficiency, its input power quality parameters, its output power quality parameters, and then you can decide, okay, this circuit is okay or not. In other way, you may directly do the simulation of the circuit, and there you can directly find out the performance of the circuit.